You're listening to the Into the Woods podcast with your hosts, Dermot and Michael. Let's get into it.
Wonderful chase by Hinshaw.
Cox again. I cannot believe it. Dacos nearly runs out of room. He's goal!
Jamie Elliott has won the game of footy for this famous club.
Slap for Nick Dacos. He's going to be the hero. The little champ is going to pick the winner.
Here's the Degoe moment. He unloads. Bang! You need your stars. And Collingwood stars just went and wrenched the cup back.
Welcome to Into the Woods. I'm your host Dermot, and for the next hour or so, we'll be talking about all things Collingwood. If you want to join the conversation, be sure to follow our socials. You can find us on X at Into the Woods Pod and on Instagram at Into the Woods Pod 10. As always, I'm joined by Michael. How are you, Mick?
I've had better mornings, thank you.
That was absolutely infuriating. For our listeners, I've just spent probably the last half an hour trying to get Michael on Teams. He tried hooking up to his...
That's very patronising. Trying to get Michael on Teams, it's like you can like trying to guide a blind man across the road. Wasn't quite the case. Though. I was pressing the freaking buttons and it wasn't loading. It was just buffering. What intervention I can bring to the table, I'm not sure. All I can do is just select the join button.
Sorry, okay? I meant Zoom, not Teams. But yes. Look, it was just a typical old man trying to work out technology.
What? It's just there's not a lot to it. You just press join, and then it's out of your hands at that point. It just buffers.
I'm currently in South Australia where it's about 34 degrees. I've got no air conditioning in the room that I'm in.
Oh, too. That was very dim because he was hot. I can't control the weather, Dermot. You know?
Yes, you cut in and out a little bit then. So it might not be great the Wi-Fi at your place, but we'll power on.
Right. Yep.
There might also be a bit of a lag.
Okay, is there?
Well, maybe just a slight one, but we'll see how we go. So like I said, in South Australia at the moment. If you haven't, you should go into our Instagram page and take a look at my little setup that I've got. I've just posted on the Instagram story. Very, very professional. I've currently got the microphone on my suitcase. And I've sort of got two tables on top of each other to put my laptop in front of it. So it's not the best working conditions, but like I said last week, we're just going to have to go with it week to week. Sometimes we might be in sort of a good place to do podcasting. Other times, not so much. And this is one of those times. So we'll power on. Gather round. How have you enjoyed the round? Just watch it on TV, Mick. It's one of the best times of the year, I reckon. It's up there. It's only second to finals footy, I reckon.
Oh, look, people get a little bit excited. There's nothing new under the sun, Dermot. Like I grew up with gather round every week. Every week we'd have our six teams playing off, usually on the same day. So people get all excited about this new concept. But gather round was around for the first 90 years of the competition.
That is true.
Yeah, so no big deal.
Well, for me over here and being here for the first time in South Australia, I got here maybe a few days earlier than I probably should have. But come Thursday afternoon, man, like the whole vibes of the city changed. It's unreal. I get what all the hype is about now. I went to the Thursday night game, the Adelaide Geelong game, and that was the atmosphere to that. That was the first time I've been to an Adelaide Oval game. That was just unreal. Like I was blown away. Obviously, I went to the Pies game the night after, and enjoyed it because it was the Pies. But something I noticed with the other games, the Collingwood game, and then the two Saturday games that I went to, which were very ordinary games of football, which might have had a little bit to do with it. That was the Carlton West Coast and the Melbourne Essendon games. The vibes were just different. Like I was talking about the Collingwood game, it wasn't like what the Adelaide Geelong game was. It was more just a lot of sitting next to me was an Essendon supporter. Sitting in front of me was Melbourne supporters. They just didn't care, so didn't really have that same sort of feel to it as being at the MCG. There was no Collingwood chant, which is I'm not used to that. Normally, when we're a few goals up late in the game, the Collingwood chant would start. But it was still good. It was a different kind of experience, and I'm heading to the Port Adelaide Hawks game tonight, and I'm sure that will be similar sort of vibe to what the Adelaide Geelong game was on Thursday night. So I'm looking forward to that. But been a really good experience, and I recommend anyone getting across to South Australia next year. And hopefully it stays here because I heard WA's pitching for it. I heard that Tassie in 2028 won it, which would be good for us because we live in Tassie. But I'm not sure if Tassie would have the same vibe as what South Australia's had.
Oh, well, they could come down in Huonville. I got to say, well, you're enjoying the vibe in Adelaide. Not so much for me in Huonville. Yeah. So you know how we spoke a couple of weeks ago about the socially retarded. Well, I've had a few encounters down in Huonville. Huge representation of the socially retarded down there. Got to say, I've grown you might have noticed I've grown the goatee.
I was going to say yes.
Indoctrination from having spent a week in Huonville. Usually I wear nothing but flannel now. I put on 15 kg and I'm buying cancer sticks with coupons at the local supermarket. So I came across one woman. I was out walking down by the river there. What's the river called in Huon? It's the Huon River, I think it is.
Huon River, yes.
Huon River. And came across this lady. She was walking what appeared to be two rescue greyhounds. And as you know, we had a rescue greyhound in the past, Frankie. So coming towards me, I said to her, do you mind if I pat them? Because, I know some of them suffer from anxiety and so forth. And without making eye contact, she responded with one word, no, and kept walking. So how these people negotiate life, I've got no idea. Like,
You need to stop complaining about Huonville, right? Everyone knows who listened last week. You were house sitting for me, but you've been gone for a few days now, so you should be over that.
I've only just started complaining about Huonville, but anyway, keep on going. So what are we up to?
All right. Well, I'm getting very, very hot, so let's just try and power through this podcast today. So let's get into all the hot topics.
We've listened to the wisdom of Sir Winston Churchill and the brilliance of genius Albert Einstein. In the 60s, we heard the great JFK. Now, all the great minds are talking footy.
All right. So we've done it again. We're now 4-1. The draw at the start of the year was extremely hard. I think you would have said after 5 rounds, you would have taken 3-2, maybe. You always want to be, ahead on the win. So 3-2 would have been a pass mark, looking at our start to the year. But to go in 4-1, especially after losing opening round the way that we did, just fantastic. Just fantastic. And it's just the way we're playing as well. Like, our game is back. Our handball game, taking on the game through the corridor, just the ball movement is from one end to the other. It's like 2023 all over again. It's an absolute pleasure to be there over the last couple of weeks and getting to see that firsthand. But in our last podcast, we're talking about how we're pretty much full strength. And then 1 or 2 days later, news comes out that the goalie's injured. Our boy Schultz is injured at the worst possible time. He was finally starting to show us exactly what he was capable of. And obviously Dan Houston's suspension for 2 weeks. So all of a sudden you lose 3 quality players and you're thinking, oh, geez, like, where are we going to go to from here? But it didn't look to affect us at all. You had Hoskin Elliott come in, you had Lockie Sullivan come in, and he was actually quite good, especially in the first half. And of course, Ed Allen, who was the sub again, and we might talk about that a little bit later on. But just all around, we're playing a team that I know isn't at their best and have a couple of injuries themselves in Goulden and Papley. But there's still a team that played off in the grand final last year, and they probably will play finals. So it was a good win. What did you take away from that game?
Well, early doors in the first quarter, I thought it was going to be a possible repeat of, I think, this first time we played them last year, when they just cut through us with uncontested marking. I don't know if you remember that game at the MCG, and they just took an amazing amount of uncontested marks. We couldn't get our hands on it. And the first quarter looked a little bit like they were going with that game plan again. But in the second quarter, we just, and then from then on, just contested possession. We dominated contested possession. Contested marking was unbelievable in the forward line.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and also we ramped up the pressure overall. Yeah. So it was good. Yeah, it was good. Like you said, they're a bit. They're far from their best at the moment, and luckily we were able to cover up on the guys. Like the names, DeGoey was out, but DeGoey hasn't been DeGoey for a while, so we're able to cover what would have been his input or output fairly comfortably. And Schultz, well, we had kind of McCreary and Bobby Hill playing a lot better, so they kind of covered that. So we're able to cover the losses very well. Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it was good.
well, you say DeGoey hasn't been DeGoey, and I agree, he hasn't been anywhere near his best, but he did kick 2 goals last week against Carlton,
Yeah.
so...
Yeah, he's been good. But he's not, the DeGoey we know. It wasn't a case of having to cover one of our informed stars, But Ned Long.
Long. Let's get straight into Ned Long, because he's the story of the night. He was unbelievable.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the other day that he's the player we've been looking for a while, and you likened him quite rightly.
Looks like we've lost old Mick there. Yep, he's gone.
You there?
Oh,
Yep.
Hello. Yep, you're back. We lost you.
Gone. But I was just saying, I'm not sure how much you heard of that.
Yeah, start again. We'll edit that part out. Yep.
Yep. I was saying, you were saying a couple of days ago that Ned Long's the player we've been looking for quite a while. For the last 5 or 6 years, we had Brandon Sire, we tried, and we had Rupert Wills, the likes of. They never quite made it. That big contested ball was able to stand up in tackles and feed out handballs, that type. It looks like, touch wood, we might have found that player.
Yeah, well, yeah, I reckon we have, but I reckon he's got so much more potential than what even Sire did. And, Sire, I think it was more off-field. He just didn't take it very seriously, his football. But this guy, he's a lot bigger than a Braden Sire and a Rupert Wills. Dare I say, is he Patrick Cripps height? I haven't looked this up, but he looks like he would be.
I think he's within a centimetre or so. But in fairness to Brandon Sire, he did bend over backwards to play basketball. He went to great lengths there.
Good old fill-in. But yeah, so everyone's going to talk about this game from Ned Long as being his absolute breakout performance. But we called it, and a lot of people called it after that Port Adelaide win. He was huge in that game. It was the second quarter of that game, because he actually started pretty poorly in the first quarter. And then the second quarter, out of nowhere, he just exploded. And it was just like, all of a sudden, he just believed. He just looked around, well, I am so much bigger and stronger than all you other midfielders. I'm just going to insert myself into this game and go for it. And that's why the last few weeks, we've been so disappointed that he's been subbed, because we felt like that was his breakout performance. Now he's just put together his best performance on the weekend. I just don't see a world where this guy could be sub again. He is not only a best 22 player, but he's a best 18 player. He just adds something so different to that midfield. That midfield that, that's got the Dacoses and the Pendleburys and Sidebottoms of the world. He's just so different to them, and he makes those guys better, and we cannot put him as sub again. And I don't think we will. Fly pretty much said that we're not going to. So this is huge. And I saw someone say the other day, give me Ned Long over Jack Ginnivan any day of the week. Different players, but everyone's talking about how we basically gave Ginnivan to Hawthorn. Well, they delisted this guy. I know they're not crying out for inside mids. You got Newcomb and Day and Warple and those guys. They're all very good players. But he's still way too good to be delisted. Anyone could use quality players, and he's a quality player. So, and I remember at the time, Hawks fans, they were actually upset that they delisted him. So nobody knows their players better than the supporters that watch them every week. So that was good to see that they cared so much. So yeah, we've got a good one there. We've got a really, really good one.
Yeah. Well, you talk about Hawthorn. With Day being out at the moment, they could use a different type, I know. But, I could see him being in their side at the moment. But as far as Collingwood goes, he kind of really, I think he's going to be great in terms of freeing Dacos up. So Dacos can be that another half a metre off the pack and not having to get the physical attention that comes with being right in and under. And that will help his delivery as well. But no, so he's been great for us. But that you're talking about Ben Allen before. It's now where do we like? We're both big fans of Ben Allen.
Ed Allen.
Sorry, I'm thinking of his dad. Sorry, when you get to my age, and I heard BT today talking about Jack Silvani, calling him Steve. Ed Allen. We're both big fans of his. But yeah, where does he fit in? I'd still like to see him in the side, but at whose expense?
Well, that's exactly it. So I sent you yesterday my updated version of FS23. And as everyone knows, I am Ed Allen's biggest fan. I've been talking about him since the pre-season on this podcast, but I've been loving him even last year and what he was able to do in the VFL. And I had him as first emergency when we had everyone back. But so it's a difficult 10 to break into. I think the depth in this squad that we have right now is actually better than 2023 because it's essentially the same team, but we've added guys like Houston and Membry and Perryman and Schultz and Ned Long and guys like this that weren't there in 2023. So it's going to be hard, but what we need to do while Schultz is still out and Houston's still out and potentially the Goey, not sure, he's 50-50 by the sounds of things to play against the Lions. While these guys are still out, we need to give Ed Allen every chance to cement himself in the 22-23. So there's opportunity there at the moment. And then when we have everyone fit, or if we have everyone fit, then we'll reassess then. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But before we do, you mentioned him before. Let's talk a bit about Nick Dacos. And you're going to be like, oh, bloody Nick Dacos. All we do is talk about Nick Dacos. But this is relevant, all right? So
whenever we talked about it before, it's been irrelevant. But anyway, yeah.
But normally when I talk about him and we talk about it, it's just me going, how good's Nick Dacos? He's the best player in the comp. He could be the best player of all time. Anyone that says he's not the best player in the comp, they're kidding themselves. That's not what I'm going to say today. It's more the fact that what I saw on the weekend, on Friday, was something that I haven't really seen before from Nick Dacos. You're going to roll your eyes, but just hear me out. So, I love my fantasy football. And when your gun fantasy players are coming up against certain teams, you panic a bit, you get worried. And those teams are Sydney, GWS, and St Kilda. And the reason being is because those three teams run the hardest tags in the competition. They've got James Jordan from Sydney, Toby Bedford from GWS, and Marcus Windhager from St Kilda. They're the three best taggers in the comp, and they just clamp down. They are good at what they do. So when we'll come up against Sydney, I'm thinking, well, James Jordan is going to tag Nick hard, and he's done it in the past, and he's beaten Nick a couple of times. This guy's so good that he held Lachie Neale in round 1 to about 10 disposals, maybe even less. Like, he destroyed Lachie Neale, and that's a 2-time Brownlow medalist. Nick Dacos just destroyed him. Like, normally when you get tagged, you'll be saying, if you could get high 20 disposals, then you've done incredibly well. If you could get low 20 disposals, it's probably a pass mark in that sort of game. He racked up 34 disposals 34 disposals against who I believe is the best tagger in the competition. And it's becoming a trend because in round 0, he got Toby Bedford, who I think is the second best tagger in the comp. And yeah, the stats at the end of the game would say Nick was beaten. Nick had 17 disposals to half time, and then cramp got him, and he could not move in that second half, as we all remember. He was actually killing Bedford at that point. So the one criticism over Nick Dacos over the last couple of years, which I think was a bit harsh anyway, was how does he handle those tags? Because he was still getting anywhere between 18 to 25 disposals when he was getting tagged. That's okay, but he's not starring. That's gone out the window now. After the weekend, destroying James Jordan on top of what he did in the first half against Toby Bedford, he is now the full package. He is the full. Is there really any point in tagging him? Maybe the only thing that they're sort of stopping is his disposal efficiency is a little bit down when he does get tagged. He's obviously got someone on him all the time. When he's not tagging him, he's going probably in the 80% mark. Now he's probably going mid-60s. But that's about the only thing that they're stopping. He was unbelievable. What did you think about that?
Yeah, well, it reminds me, as I said from day one, he reminded me of Gary Ablett Jr. Reminds me a lot of how he plays, and he used to just run taggers into the ground, and Dacos is doing the same. And you go all the way back to Robert Harvey. I remember when Tony Shaw was coach of Collingwood in the late 90s, there were some games where he would play Paul Williams on Robert Harvey and not tag him, just let Harvey go off and do his bit in the hope that Paul Williams could punish him going the other way on the scoreboard. And that sometimes worked, sometimes it didn't. But you're right. By tagging him, what are they gaining? As you said, they're gaining maybe impacts on disposal efficiency. But would they be better off having back in their own midfield in? Maybe they would. Spoke about his tackling. His tackling was a feature the other day. I think he had 9 tackles. That's something he hasn't really hung his hat on that in the past. That hasn't been a big feature of his game. The one thing I think would elevate him to the next level is goal kicking. He's not. He had 2 shots of goal the other day. Neither of them were really hard. They would have been good goals, but he missed 2 goals. He's just. I look at it. Don't want to keep on comparing him to his dad. We all know how great his dad was, especially in front of goals. But neither of them are just as natural in front of goals as Peter was. He just did it with such ease. They're still very good goal kickers, but I'd like to see him get better around the goals. Maybe get more selfish around the goals as well, instead of looking for the other options. If you're inside 50, have a ping. Back yourself and have a ping. Because how often do those passes inside 50 come off? Maybe 3 times out of 10 they might come off. If you're somebody like a Nick Dacos, somebody like a Jordan De Goey, somebody of that ilk, I'd rather them have a shot inside forward 50 if they've got the ball than pass it off. But there you go. Yeah, but he was very good.
All right. Next player I want to talk about is Steel Sidebottom. Far out. Steel Sidebottom. 34 years of age. We always talk about Pendlebury and how amazing it is, at his age that he's still playing this high standard of football. Sidebottom has just been unreal this year. I remember in the preseason, I wasn't off him, but I was saying he's still a good player. He's just not as good as what he was. And I threw up maybe he's borderline 22 anyway. So he could be a specialist sub where he'll start as a sub, be able to coach from the boundary, come on with a quarter and a half left and be able to play any position that we need him. And I thought that was a potential role for him. But he's so far past that. Like he's gotten better. He's gotten better since last year. And it kind of reminded me, I think his 2021 season from memory, people were like, I think this is sort of, we're seeing signs that this is the end of Steel. And it wasn't, because 2022 came out and was as good as ever. So he's done this before. And he's still probably a top 5-6 player at the club. And he's done it in a new role. He's been a wingman for pretty much his whole career. And now he's playing inside mid. Like, you don't normally see it. You normally see the inside mids move to a flank or something at this age, not the other way around. It's just unbelievable. And yeah, I'm happy to put my hand up and say I got this one wrong. What do you think of Sidebottom's season to date, and especially his game on the weekend?
Yeah, well, his game in the weekend, it was just, I heard somebody else say that he just pops up. He reads the play so well, and inevitably he just gets to the holes that the ball's going to be in. He just feels like he knows where the ball's going. It'll be a quick kick out of the pack, and he'll be on the end of it. Yeah, not unlike Pendlebury in that regard. They could just position themselves really well, and they're both probably on-field coaches, which is a huge bonus. So yeah, I was a bit the same in 21. I thought it was the beginning of the end, but really in retrospect, you look back and was that was the hub year, wasn't it?
2020 was the hub year.
Yeah, that was the hub year, was it? Yeah, there were a couple of rocky years for him. And I thought it was because the reason I'm chuckling, I remember he was walking around Williamstown without pants at one stage. I think he was.
I forgot about that.
It was just it just like he's never done anything like that before nor since. It was just kind of, yeah. It was. I think he was on a night out with Luke Sayers that night. Yes, they were bad influence. Yeah, but he's found a new lease of life. So yeah, we're starting to bat deep. Well, on the face of it, isn't it? We've few options to go for. Like, he wouldn't have thought he was a real option to go through the middle of this year as a tagger. But yeah,
we'll talk about that in a second, because I've got a new mini segment which will include that.
We didn't discuss this with me, this new mini segment.
Just a mini segment inside the hot topic, so it's nothing huge.
Yeah, they all have to be cleared.
Another player I want to quickly talk about, and I want to mention him because I don't have him in my Julian Rowe medal vote, so I won't be able to talk about him there. But I still think he deserves a mention, and that's Harry Perryman. It's just he starts the season as an inside mid. He then moves as a tagger the next week against Jason Horne-Francis. The week after, Reef McGuinness gets injured, so he has to go back and play a whole game back. Then he's back as an inside attacking mid last week, and he's looking really good in that role. Then Dan Houston is suspended for 2 weeks, so he goes back again. He deserves a big pat on the back, because he's just if this is gonna be an ongoing thing where he's thrown around all over the place every week, in a way he becomes one of our more important players, because he's not a star at anything, but he's very good at everything. He's just been a great pickup, and people were going to say that he's on too much. Whatever. These are the types of players that can turn us from a contender to a premiership team. His versatility is great, and think back to the grand final in 2023. If he was a part of that, Nathan Murphy goes down, he definitely would have swung back, wouldn't he?
Yeah. No, he has been. I thought the player, but he does fly under the radar. He's a quiet achiever. I thought the player you might have mentioned was Billy Frampton.
He was next on my list, yep.
Yeah, Billy Frampton. I think, he's going to play a very important role in allowing Moore to be freed up, because Moore's not back to his best. I wouldn't go that far, but he's just showing signs of getting back to that attacking player he was, intercepting, because Billy Frampton is locking down the best key forward. And the club's finally woken up, or appears to have finally woken up to the fact that Moore is not a defensive defender. He's not the guy you want to do those lockdown jobs. As long as Billy doesn't get ahead of himself, we just want him to play like, they should just say to him, play like Presty. They should get Presty down to the club and say, that red lever thing, if you see that coming towards you aerially, just punch it away. That's all.
Does he still work at the club?
I don't know. He was in that merchandising area, wasn't he?
I think he still might be.
Yeah, but that's all Frampton needs to do. See ball, punch ball. Just keep it as simple as that. We don't want you taking intercepting marks. We don't want the ball in your hands. Even though he's not terrible at disposal. He's got a neat disposal. But I wouldn't care if Frampton came out of a game without a possession. I just want him old-fashioned to beat his man, to free up Howard, to free up more. So, yeah, I don't want to, Reef, terrible thing that's happened to him, but can it be a blessing in disguise in that it's gotten Frampton into the side? I don't want to sound harsh because Reef hadn't proven himself down there. He really hadn't had an opportunity to prove himself. So we don't know what we'll get him down there with McGuinness. Yeah, so I think it's been a good move getting Frampton in.
No, I agree. 100% on board with that. All right, so here's the mini segment in a segment. So I'm going to call this the selection table, where we talk a little bit about selection for the upcoming week, but also in a long-term kind of way as well.
You got to run this past me first, especially the title. I think I've got to come up with something a little bit better. But go ahead.
No, the selection tables. All right, so if the goalie misses again, we're obviously going to be unchanged. So, but I would definitely change the sub. So Ed Allen, as we said before, needs to play a full game. We need to give him the chance. The question would be who would replace him as sub. It would obviously be Sullivan or Hoskin Elliott. For me, I would probably go Hoskin Elliott because the versatility that he brings would be quite handy as a sub, whereas I think Sullivan's sort of filling in for Schultz at the moment. Is that the way you see it if the goalie misses?
If the goalie misses, I'd like to get Ed Allen into the side, yes, and probably at the expense of Hoskin Elliott, as you said. But also the jury's still out on McCreary. He was better the other day. He was better, but he's still only getting his hands on the ball 10 times. He kicked a nice goal. But, I think he'd make a perfect sub. A guy who could come on with the paces off the game, and just use his explosive pace to break things open. I think he's a contender for me as a sub.
I think he was too good on the weekend to put as a sub, but I think when we get all our players back, he could potentially take that role.
I wish he'd stop kicking it to a metre out from the goal line, though. He did it again on the weekend. It's the stupidest kick in football. It's what the opposition wants you to do.
He did it twice on the weekend.
Yeah, twice, was it? Yeah, he's done it in previous weeks, as I've mentioned. Just put it, if you can't go to journey, put it 15 metres out, directly in front, so they can't just whack it through for a behind. So just not smart football. But yeah, if the goalie is not back, yeah, I'd say probably Hoskin Elliott sub, get Ben Allen in. Ed Allen in. Ed Allen. Well, why did he name his son Ed when he's banned? It's just too similar. But anyway, go ahead.
If the goalie plays, who are you dropping out of Sullivan and Hoskin Elliott? So one will be the sub, one will be dropped. Hopefully it's not Ed Allen.
Yeah. Okay. So we're up against Brisbane. They've got a very vaulted midfield. Maybe I'm dropping Hoskin Elliott just to have that little bit more depth in the midfield that Sullivan could spend a little bit of time in there. I don't expect him to spend much time in there.
He won't spend any time.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a consideration.
Yeah, I know he won't spend much time in the midfield, but he's still a midfield option. That in the event that they get on top in there, Brisbane get on top, he is an option we could throw in there, whereas Hoskin Elliott isn't. And I've got the natural bias against Hoskin Elliott after years of frustration, so I've got to take that into account also. But yeah, who would you go for?
I would keep Hoskin Elliott and play him as a sub, only because, you talk about the option of throwing Sullivan in the midfield. That's just... to me, it's just not even an option. We'll talk about this in a little bit, but we've just got so many inside mids. Hoskin Elliott can play forward, back, wing. So if you want flexibility, he's the perfect player for that role. Actually, we will talk about the inside midfield depth now. So obviously we've got Nick and Pendles that are the two big dogs in there. Sidey's joined that group this year. Ned Long is 100% locked in. Harry Perryman, he'll join that group when Houston is back. So one more week. All of a sudden, you got 5 guys there that are just big inside mids. You got Ed Allen on the outer at the moment. So for me, long term, what does this mean for Jordan De Goey? Now, obviously, when he's fit, he's our second best midfielder, I'd say, after Nick. But does the amount of inside mids that we have and the depth, does that mean for the first time in many years, we can now see De Goey spend, well, maybe even more than 50-50 split between forward and midfield. Maybe he could spend 70% time forward, and then maybe, once finals come and to go is it maybe more midfield then. But throughout the year, just to manage him, but also give us that different look, because I don't think we've seen a full-time midfield to go since about full-time forward to go since about 2019. You put him up there alongside Checkers, Dan McStay, Membry. He's either getting the third or fourth best defender. Like, that's unreal. Like, how do you see that? Would you still play midfield despite that depth, or would you be happy to see him play more forward?
Okay, well, we've always had that debate with De Goey about his midfield forward split. I've never really settled on one or the other of what I believe he should be, because he's potentially a match winner at both forward and mid. Maybe when he's up and going fully fit, I'd probably like to see him 60-40 midfield forward. But when he comes back, he won't have the fitness, of course, to run through the midfield initially. So yeah, I'd just like to see him on a flank in the forward line, causing havoc. We saw those 2 goals he kicked against Carlton. I think he'd be good for a couple of goals a week up there. Once he gets a little bit of fitness back, and then maybe, as you said, later on in the back end of the year, he can move back into the midfield. Coming back end finals time, but still push forward. So he's going to be a great luxury to have if we can get him back to full fitness. Now that we've got the likes of Ned Long in the midfield, if he can hold his form, which frees De Goey up to play more forward, it's a scary option for the opposition having him down there, as you said, with potentially the third or fourth best defender, because he can challenge you on the ground, he can challenge you in the air. He's strong. Yeah, a bit of a nightmare. Always reminds me of Rene Kink for Collingwood supporters old enough. It reminds me a lot. A guy who is a real bull, who was a match winner in the biggest games of the year, just burst out of packs as a midfielder, but go forward and take strong contested marks, booming kick. He's very Kink-like in my opinion. But yeah, there you go.
All right, and the last one that I want to talk about in the selection table is Tom Mitchell. So we're talking about the inside mid still. Where do you see him when he's fit again? Keep in mind, it's actually been about 12 months since he's played any football now, so that's a huge worry.
Yeah, that is a huge worry. I said going back a few weeks when we spoke about this, that if we're contending, you know what you're going to get with a Tom Mitchell if we can get him back and fully fit. You know what he's capable of doing in finals. So I was kind of erring on bringing him back and having him as part of the plans going all the way. But now, look, I don't want to get overly excited about Ned Long, but he's going for the same position as Ned. If Ned Long can continue to play in that manner, I don't expect him to play that well every week. But if he continues to play in that manner, Mitchell's going to find it hard to get back in, and especially with somebody like Mitchell who doesn't spread at the contests. He's very much one-dimensional, as well as he does that dimension very well, but he's very one-dimensional. So, yeah, it'd be good to get him back fully fit again, just to have him as an option to build on the depth. But I don't think he's any guarantee of breaking back into the side.
No, I don't either. I love Tom Mitchell, and he'll forever be a premiership hero. And I love him as a player, love him as a bloke.
Dead.
Sorry?
He's not dead.
He's not dead, but there's just, yeah, he's become one of my favourites in such a short amount of time. So it hurts to say, but I think he's quite far down that pecking order now, because as we've been talking about, Ed Allen, like, how's he going to get in? I would have Ed Allen probably ahead of Mitchell at the moment. So if he can't get a game, how's Titch. But it would be good to get him fit, and then we can see through the VFL if his form stacks up there, and we'll go from there. What are you greeting at?
Oh, no, it just reminded me of your tribute to Andrew Cracker last week. Was it last week? I was listening back, and you're talking about how, you went out and you bought this jumper with your own money and how precious it was to you and very emotional. But then you don't know where the jumper is now. Like this very precious memento of a childhood memory. I don't know where it is now, he says.
It was about 15 years ago. Do you have everything that you had from 15 years ago?
Things I described as precious, probably, yeah.
And what about that bloody diamond jumper that you lost about 30 years ago and you still talk about that?
Where is that diamond jumper? It's one for the ages. I really don't know what you're talking about with the diamond. Anyway, keep on going.
All right. Well, let's get a move on because our internet is shithouse and I've got a lot of editing ahead and we've just lost. Are you there, Mick?
Yeah, I've just got a battery warning on my phone as well.
Oh, for God's sake. Well, quickly go plug it in when I go to the Julian Rowe medal.
Okay.
He's been pretty good, Julian Rowe. He's been better than pretty good. He's been a forward that has presented for them today.
Hold on.
All right.
I'm back. I'm going to have to change.
It's fine. I'll just go through my votes, Mick, while you do this. This is an absolute debacle.
I'm going to have to hold the phone. How's that?
Yes, very good. This could be the worst podcast we've done. I don't know how this is going to come out, but this is bad.
And that's saying something because we've had some shockers.
we have, but let's see. Let's just hope that we don't have any more of us cutting out for the remainder of the pod. All right, so I've given my full 60. And I've given a lot of players votes, which I know you don't like, Mick. So I've given 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 players votes. So more than half the team. I've given 2 to Billy Frampton. The eye test, he was really good. He had the 8 intercept possessions. I've then given a host of players 4 votes. How many? A lot. I won't even bother counting. So one of those players is Paddy Lipinski. He had the 24 disposals, 5 inside 50s, 491 metres gained, and 9 scoring involvements. Bo McCreary, who you've been bagging, I gave 4 votes to. So he had a team high 27 pressure acts. He had 4 tackles, a team high 7 inside 50s. He's ranked inside the top 5 for metres gained for Collingwood players with 447. He had 5 scoring involvements, he kicked 2 goals, and he did all of that with just the 9 disposals, which is quite incredible. I've then given 4 votes to Pendles for his 26 disposals, 8 tackles, 6 clearances, and 5 scoring involvements. I've then given 4 votes to Jamie Elliott, Bobby Hill, and Brody Myercheck. They all kicked 3 goals, which was very impressive effort for those guys. Darcy Moore's also got 4 votes for his 14 disposals, 5 tackles, and a game-high 10 intercept possessions. Big Darcy Cameron. The eye test at the ground said that he dominated Grundy. When I looked at the stats afterwards, the stats weren't too far off, but he's a far better player than Grundy, and he killed him. He had the 20 disposals, 13 contested, 5 clearances, 6 scoring involvements, and 6 intercept possessions. And then the next 3 guys, for me, would have 3 standouts of the night. Steel Sidebottom I've given 8 votes to. He had the 28 disposals, 13 contested, a team high, 522 metres gained, 6 tackles, 22 pressure acts, 7 intercept possessions, and a game high, 13 scoring involvements. I've given 9 votes to Nick Dacos. Now, originally I gave him 8, but I've given him an extra one just for that, doing all this with that tag. He had a game-high 34 disposals. He had 15 contested possessions, a team-high 9 tackles, an equal game-high 9 clearances, 5 inside 50s, 455 metres gained, and 7 scoring involvements. And I've given 9 votes to Ned Long as well. He had the 29 disposals, a game-high 17 contested possessions, an equal game-high 9 clearances, 7 inside 50s, 515 metres gained, 6 tackles, 25 pressure acts, and 10 scoring involvements. He dominated. So to recap, that's Ned Long 9, Nick Dacos 9, Sidebottom 8, Cameron 4, Moore 4, Myercheck 4, Bobby Hill 4, Elliott 4, Pendlebury 4, McCreary 4, Lipinski 4, and Big Billy Frampton 2.
Right. You can see Dermot's a bit frustrated because we're having a lot of internet problems. So I'm going to go through mine very quickly. 9 votes to Ned Long. Side bottom 9 votes. Nick Dacos 8 votes. Pendlebury 6. Moore 6. Myercheck 6. Elliott 6. Lipinski, I thought he was good, especially early, 3. And McCreary, you said I bagged him, but not really. You've got 3 votes. He was better this game, but the jury's still out, as I said, on McCreary. Doesn't do it enough. But they're my votes, yep. So Ned Long, 9, side bottom 9, Nick 8, Pendlebury 6, Moore 6, Myercheck 6, Elliott 6, Lipinski 3, and McCreary 3, for a total of 60.
All right, so let's wrap this podcast up with a Who Am I? Who am I? Good timing not to have eyeball bomber, Mick, because I reckon I could cope.
I've got the Tom McGuan watch.
Okay, quickly, Tom McGuan watch.
Tom McGuan watch. Played yesterday. Listen to this. 38 possessions, 5 marks, 6 inside 50s in a team that lost by 50-odd points. And the same in round 1 where they lost by about 42. He was near on best on ground on that too.
You might need an Oscar Loney watch soon as well, and then that key forward that we've got rights to. I forgot.
But
his
it's
name.
funny, just with the Western Jets who he plays for, they played round 1, had a bye round 2, played round 3, now got a bye round 4. That's crazy. But there you go. So,
all right, who am I? It's your turn today. So I think you're still currently 1 point ahead of me. I think it's 3-2 for the season now. So I need to get back here.
Again, I'd like that checked by auditors. We know what you're like when it comes to those numbers. Okay, for 5 points. Born the 15th of April, 1970, on the 3rd of January, 2003. Now, that's the best clue you're ever going to get for 5 points, Dermot.
Start from 5 points again because he cut out.
Okay, so for 5 points. Born the 15th of April, 1974. Died the 3rd of January, 2003. So that's a very generous 5-pointer, Dermot.
2003. 74.
74. And he died in January 2003.
74, which would have been... So he would have only been early 30s. 2003. That's about the time I started getting really into footy, around 02, 03. Nah, go on to 4.
Rightio. He is a South Australian. He was picked 28 in the 1992 draft by his original club. And he debuted in round 1, 1994 against the Dogs.
So hold on, he's a South Australian.
He came from South Australia. He was picked 28 in 1992 and by his original club. And he debuted round 1, 1994 against the Dogs.
He died in his early 30s.
Died in his early 30s.
In 2003. Was he still playing, or was that... No, that's probably going to be a lot.
Jesus.
Now move on. 3 points.
3 votes. Co-winner of Richmond's Best First-Year Player 1994 before traded to the Pies for Aaron James and pick 71 in 1997. Best First-Year Player at Richmond, 1994. These are good, solid clues.
No, they're good, yeah. And I just have absolutely no idea because there's every chance I probably don't even know who this player is. Do you reckon I know him?
Oh, I think you do.
1997, he came to the Pies.
Yeah, but look, we don't want to be limited. It's because I'm talking to, what are you, a millennial or whatever you are? You know, we can't just limit things to players who played in the last 25 years.
No, I agree, yeah.
Yeah.
So he died not long after coming to Collingwood. He died. How can I not... Nah, go on, next.
That's it. He For 2 points. He was delisted after only 2 years and 16 games, playing his last game at the age of only 25.
I have a feeling I have no idea who this guy is.
Okay.
Just no one, because Steve McKee played for Richmond, but he's obviously not dead. I hope not, anyway.
Well, the way he played, sometimes you're thinking he was. But we up to 1 point?
Yeah, I need to have a stab in the dark here.
Okay. After having overcome Hodgkin's lymphoma, he died at the wheel of his car of a suspected brain aneurysm.
I have absolutely no idea. And I can't even take a stab in the dark because all the guys I'm thinking of are still alive. So it's like, well,
Right.
I don't think I know who this guy is.
Well, I did rule out 8 billion people on the planet by telling you he's dead. So you can rule out the 8 billion on the planet. You want to have a go?
I can't because everyone I'm thinking is alive.
Hey, Jamie Tape.
I have no idea who Jamie Tape is.
Oh, come on. You don't know Jamie Tape?
No idea. Never heard of him.
He was a Richmond halfback flanker type, like a 5 foot, 5'10", 5'11" halfback flanker. Good player for Richmond, came to Collingwood, showed good early signs, but he only played 16 games. Jamie Tape. Remember, Jamie Tape died. Don't remember that?
Well, no, because like I said, I started really getting into footy about 0203. By that point, he was already out of the system.
I thought you might have. Yeah, I can forgive somebody for not knowing a player of Jamie Tape's ability and performance if they knew him when you were growing up. But the fact that he had died, I thought, and he had been in the news a bit because of that, and people still refer back to him today and so forth. And Richo, Matthew Richardson talks about him now and again because he played with him at Richmond.
That's sad. Rest in peace, Jamie Tape.
Jamie Tape. Yeah, good solid player, Jamie Tape. But there you go.
All right.
I'll just say a couple of things in closing. Yeah. Just a bugbear of mine, and it still happens. Forwards being umpired differently to backmen. It's always stuck in my claw. Like if you're a backman and you wrap your arms around a forward, even put an arm around their stomach, their waist, bang, free kick. If a forward does it to a backman, they can get away with it. Riley Philthorpe, playing against Gold Coast last week, he manhandled who's 25 for Gold Coast, their fullback, Campbell. Collins. You know, he grabbed him around the waist and just pull him off to the side. Like, that's a free kick. If it was the other way around, if the backman was that backman doing that, it would be a free kick. So, I know it's out of context, but that annoys me.
Shouldn't this be an I got vomit? You said you don't have I got vomit. All right. Anyway, I want to wrap this up because I'm in a 34-degree room at the moment. I'm sweating, and I've probably got an hour or more of editing. This has been an absolute nightmare. Hopefully next week the Wi-Fi, the internet connection will be a hell of a lot better. And I've just prayed to God that this wasn't a waste of time and we can sort of get some of this podcast together.
There's the Mondigliani behind my shoulder there. Sadly, not an original Mondigliani.
All right, we don't have time for this, and
don't edit that part out, Dermot.
The people on Spotify and Apple can't see it, so
yeah, but what doesn't matter.
All right. Anyway, I'm not gonna ask you for any final words because you've babbled on enough. So don't forget to subscribe to our channels on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. If you want to follow our socials, you can find us on X at Into the Woods Pod and on Instagram at Into the Woods Pod 10. Thanks for listening. We look forward to doing it again next week. See ya.